everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today's Wildcard Sunday where we look at something a little bit different from our regularly scheduled videos and artists during the week. So today we're looking at Fantastic Four Full Circle, but the expanded edition. What's different? Well, first of all, it is much bigger. It's oversized compared to the original, I guess, if you want to call it oversized. And it's got tons of back matter apparently. Now this is an unboxing. It's already out of the box, but an unshrink wrapping. Basically, I haven't looked at it yet. Again, I do have the book, so I've read the story originally. Very cool. Alex Ross kind of takes a Kirby story from the early 50s. And in that, I mean, issue numbers of the Fantastic Four. I think it's This Man, This Monster. It either takes place right after or in between issues or something like that. It definitely relates to directly pretty much to early 60s Marvel Fantastic Four continuity. And the way he interprets Kirby and Kirby's colors and stuff, I think is great. He puts a lot of thought into this stuff, which is awesome. I'm always into, and knowing that there was an expanded edition out there with tons of back matter. That's the thing with this thing. It's oversized, it's really big compared to the original, but it's got tons of back matter apparently. Most of the book is back matter, which I love because, again, Alex Ross puts so much thought into this stuff, and I love to see his process and where he kind of gets his ideas and inspirations from. He has very deep knowledge of comic book memorabilia, continuity, but also just pop culture in general. And he goes and finds really obscure inspiration for stuff, which I'm sure we're going to discover in here. You know, a few months ago, he kind of had this Batman proposal that leaked on the internet or got to the internet, where he's basically what if Kirby had gotten on Batman maybe in the 70s when he went over to DC, right? And just that stuff was so evocative and so interesting. If you haven't seen it, go check it out online. You can see it. You know, at some point I might review that, just not even as a comic, but as something of interest, because, man, I downloaded those pages. I have them, so I could definitely do a review of that at some point, because I think it's just really great stuff that will never see the light of day other than the designs he did, right? But I'm getting ahead of myself and too far with all that stuff. Let's focus on the book here. This is again an unboxing. We're going to take it out of the shrink wrap. It's out of the box, but out of the shrink wrap right now. I haven't looked at this yet. I've read the original book, as I told you, so I know the story and stuff, and I'll comment on the art there. The fact that it's oversized, obviously. Come on, trusty scissors. Not sharp enough to bust this open. May have to get a different tool. Oh, wait. There we go. So, we got that going. Don't mind me. Try to get this done as quickly as possible. Oh, hopefully I don't fuck up the zoom now. Hopefully I talked long enough on this video not to get censored for swearing. So we've got something on the back here. I'm going to try and be careful. A lot of these books seem to come with these things here. Let me just check the zoom to be safe, alright guys? So I'm not shooting a shitty unfocused video. Alright, that looks good. So, what was on the back there? Real quick, Marvel Arts Fantastic Four Full Circle, national bestseller. So they're hyping the actual book. And it's kind of just a promo for the book I just bought. So that's kind of weird. Alright. Let's put that aside. And dig in, have a look at this beast of a book. I mean, I'll just describe the tactile experience here. It's got a nice kind of glossy cover right here where we've got the Fantastic Four art and those psychedelic colors. And then we've got kind of a classic, I guess you would call this like a threaded kind of thing on top. It's been stamped down here with expanded edition. Super cool. It's like a big tome, you know, like a big awesome book. Full circle spine. Oh, very cool. Already dusty because it's black. Darn it. Should have cleaned my table. Let's center it for now. Let me double check the zoom again since I've moved it around. Alright, everything seems within order. Maybe we're not having issues because I really had to pull the camera back so we could see this whole book. Alright, well, let's open her up. I think I might actually have to move this light too. Let me see if I can do that real quick without messing too much stuff up here. And one last check and we're ready, guys. I'm, as you can tell, highly technical when it comes to shooting videos here. It's pretty easy with the setup once you're just doing regular comics. Once you get a different format, you got to kind of work around that, but I think this book is definitely worth it. And let's see how short I can keep this review. All right, open it up for the first time. Very nice. No white, blank, or black pages here. That's cool. Oh yeah. Very good design here. The dot pattern, you know, how classic comics were colored. So we've got the classic, you know, 2-page origin thing going. Alex Ross did a bunch of these for Marvel and DC characters. So he's done a bunch for, he's done one for Superman, Shazam, Batman. They all kind of have one, right? All the major kind of heroes that he's into. And one thing specific to this comic here, right, if you don't know about it, and I'll try to go pretty quickly through the actual book, not to spoil too much about it and the story and stuff, and just focus on the art real quick, and then focus on the back matter. That's really what I'm interested in, right? If you like the book, obviously go buy it and read it, but the back matter is why you buy this volume here as a super nerd. Fantastic Four, created by Stan Lee. All right, not getting into that. So let's say created by Jack Kirby and possibly a bit of Stan Lee. Art and script by Alex Ross. Colors by Alex Ross with Josh Johnson. And lettering by Ariana Maher. So apparently a lot of this is colored digitally or something. I'm not 100% sure. I think this digital effect was added on, right? This guy, Josh Johnson, I remember Alex Ross saying that he kind of showed him it was possible to make it look kind of a vintagey kind of look to the comic, and that's what Alex Ross wanted. Even though he's you know, it seems like he's inking in a more traditional pen and ink or, you know, black ink style for comic books. He's actually still using gouache, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, and if I am, let me know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure I've checked all those videos and that's what he was doing there. Yeah. And this comic looks great. It's got kind of a, you know, the way he's doing this is kind of almost reproducing that doubling effect, or like when that off-register coloring from the older comics and stuff. The whole look of this comic is amazing. I mean, he pays homage to the 60s, pays homage to Jack Kirby. You know, in the way it looks, in the coloring, in the color choices, the color palette, if I can say that. You know, right now it's kind of a little more subdued, and, you know, those basic, you know, 3 colors that they would mix together to create all the other colors is what we're seeing here, or at least that feel is reproduced in the artwork here, right? And I'll give it to Alex Ross. You know, some people have complained in the past his storytelling is a bit kind of stiff and whatever. Doing a pretty good job here. Like, this feels comic booky, even though it's very realistic, right? It feels, there's in a past review I was talking about Birdman and also the Galaxy Trio, who I always thought were kind of a Fantastic Four ripoff. But I'm getting that vibe here from the way he's doing this stuff, like the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Like it's a love letter to the 60s, it seems like, and it's just really well done, right? I mean, there's no touching Alex Ross on painted artwork, right? And he's, you know, he's not exactly doing painted artwork here. It's, you know, like I said, gouache posing as pen and ink. But, you know, whatever color process they're going through here is just, I love it, right? There's a slight, right now, psychedelic feel, which will just become even more heightened, right? And all this stuff here, like, just looks like an old kind of sci-fi movie. You know, all this stuff here in the starker kind of flashback sequence, you know, monochrome kind of colors, look like old black and white movies. Like, I could totally picture this just fitting in with all those 60s shows, like, you know, Batman, Lost in Space. And then it all kind of goes nuts here, and we get a bit of Geiger in the stuff that's coming out of this character here, right? Alien kind of parasites and creatures, and, you know, the like. A lot of these kind of look like, or are based or similar to face huggers. And yeah, just this interesting application of colors that's kind of, you know, Alex Ross has always said he's kind of inspired by old magazine paintings, and his mother was a painter. You know, advertising art, right? A lot of, in the 50s and 60s, early 60s was painted, right? So he's got that vibe here, and the color choice, and again, this you know, dot pattern that they throw in everywhere. And I mean, who can argue? The storytelling is clear, a lot of action going on. It's very dynamic. I feel like this is more dynamic than when Alex Ross paints himself. You know, left at just this level with like, you know, almost again quasi inked, traditionally comic book art. It just looks amazing. Like, oh, look at that, and the dot pattern. Just the way, the volumes that it creates, and it's like, it's almost like seeing real life Kirby or Kirby come to real life. It's also going to do something with the costumes soon when you see it. That's, again, super interesting. Oh, this stuff here, right? And in a way, he's paying homage to Buscema as well, because Buscema took some of the Kirby stuff and pushed it more in other directions. I feel he's doing a little bit of that here, right? Definitely paying homage to Kirby, but, you know, throwing some... the fact that, like, when you go to the negative zone, the lighting seems to flip, right? Or there's something going on there. Almost like, I don't know if you guys have seen Dune in the second Dune movie, when they go to the planet of the bad dudes. I forget their names right now. It escapes me, but all the dudes with their shaved head. They use some weird, like, radar kind of screen, and they mix that with, to give it a really kind of eerie and weird effect, almost like they're being lit by a black sun, I guess, what they were kind of going for. Alex Ross is kind of able to do that too, like adding these cool little twists to old concepts that just make them really cool again. Very strong on the yellow, right? Yellow seems to be the dominant color here. It's almost like the color that represents the 60s or something. The reflections on their suits here. Yeah, something about the suits, the way they're going to light up, I think, once they get to the negative zone, because that's basically where they're going here. Some cool Fantastic cars. There were a few models, right? So Kirby started out with the bathtub, but, you know, cooler versions came out later. So I think he's paying homage to that too. I think all these are Kirby designs. Just the layout here of this page, the fact that you're willing to just easily follow it, you know, in a diagonal like that, tilt your head. Just, yeah. And here we go into the negative zone. And of course, you know, definitely some inspiration here from the Kirby collages. If you've ever looked, you can look it up again on the internet, Kirby collage, and you'll see this kind of stuff, or similar to this, where, you know, Kirby would actually cut out stuff from magazines, glue it together. Didn't always reproduce properly. So I feel like the fact that Alex Ross here has kind of done an actual painted or colored or at least inked, you know, whatever you want to call, again, the process he's using here, gouache, the fact that he's incorporated that Jack Kirby collage look into an actual painting. Everything here is actually painted, but it could almost look like it was a collage. Weird textures here going on. I'm not going to get into it. Okay, it's somewhat testicular now. Cool though. Yeah, so again, the lighting, once they get to this negative zone, the way everything works here seems to be inversed. Just such a, uses Kirby's style to create the inverse dark kind of negative shading and lighting in the negative zone. It's like, he's such a clever artist. Again, all the thought that he puts into it. Like, look at this. You know, when I first saw it, it actually took me a second to actually figure out what it was, but that's because it's so close up, and once you see it and the lighting, again, that inverse sense of, again, you're in the negative zone, so Alex Ross is like, well, I'm going to make you feel like it's negative somehow. So it's like, there's just a sickly kind of dark light. And again, the color choice here, just pure kind of Kirby psychedelia. He's clearly, looked at some Jack Kirby stuff that he colored himself. A lot of greens and purples and secondary colors and stuff in the Kirby, a lot of yellow. So that's, you know, most of the color scheme here, I'm sure, is inspired by Jack Kirby. And Annihilus here just eating a bunch of creatures. Just awesome double page spread. So, listen, I could talk about this for hours. This guy's face coming out of between the creatures here is super awesome. There he is. Like, he's some, if you don't know, he used this inspiration from some old 60s movie. There's a character, not sure exactly what the movie is, but who looks like this, and that's the face that he's used. Like, all these references and stuff. I bet you even these monsters, some of them are referenced from like old, you know, pulp illustrations and 30s comics and sci-fi and stuff. Maybe not all, but some of them for sure. He's always got these again, these cool references. It's just, there's just a way he's got of making it look cool. Yeah, again, I could spend just one whole review on the book, right? But let's get to the interesting bits and see what, something really, really arresting. But you get the gist of, I think this is a book that you have to savor for yourself. I was going to say, I do appreciate the oversized aspect of this book here. I think that already is well worth it. I get, bigger, cooler, more detailed shots of the art. I can really get in there and look at the detailing. And it's just a really cool Fantastic Four story, a really cool, fun story that looks awesome. Like the full potential of what a Fantastic Four story should be here, right? And it just, you gotta have that Kirby vibe. You gotta have the stakes, right? Of like the when the Fantastic Four got really kind of big and cosmic and stuff. And, almost every issue was this kind of adventure. So that's what he's trying to bring back here. Color scheme here is just so out there, and again, very Kirby inspired here. This whole scene, I remember this was part of, like, this is eventually the actual finished illustration of stuff he threw in the original proposal. I do know that. We'll probably see it in the back matter again, in a more sketched out version, the original, right? I mean, every page is masterful. Every page is full of vintagey goodness and memorabilia and nostalgia, and total respect to Jack Kirby, bringing in lots of Kirby characters here, from throughout the Fantastic Four's history. The way he interprets Kirby's design, like, so respectful, looks pretty much like Kirby, but he finds a way to just make it also very evocative. Again, I do, when I'm reading this, it's like I'm watching a super high budget Fantastic Four movie, right? As it should be, with that 60s vibe. I mean, Marvel's doing that right now. Not sure how that's going to turn out, if they're going to do it right. You need a guy like, I'm going to say it, like, production, design, all that stuff. Why are they not going to a guy like Alex Ross? It just... The guy's right there. He knows exactly what you should be doing with the Fantastic Four franchise. I think, anyways, in my opinion. If this was, I guess it'd be it's an oversized book, high page count as well. So, it'd probably be impossible, obviously, to have a monthly Fantastic Four comic that looks like this. But, like, Alex Ross could do one of these a year, you know what I mean? Or, like, smaller, shorter chapters and maybe 3 or 4 issues a year come out or something. I mean, how could Marvel not do that and on their end make money? I'm sure that's like an instant seller. But Marvel, aren't even responsible for this book here, right? It's some publishing wing of a book company that does stuff for Marvel that actually got this done, right? Why? Because they can, they're a bigger corporation with their book publications. They can actually pay Alex Ross what he deserves to make a book like this, where Marvel, I guess, can't really. This guy's face, very familiar. I feel like there's a vintage actor who Alex Ross took probably inspiration from. We know Alex Ross looks at actors and stuff, right? This guy here, I forget the actor's name, but he kind of changed. He'll probably talk about in the back matter, I should get to it, how he changed his model for Reed Richards from the guy from the professor from Gilligan's Island to this other actor that I forget his name, but like I said, getting to the back matter, we'll know. Something Chamberlain. Look at all these funky colors. Love it. So there you have the actual comic. Like I said, didn't want to ruin it too much for anybody, so kind of a quick read through. Now we get to the interesting bits. I hope, because I don't know, as I said, this is an unboxing, shrink wrapping of this book, so I have not seen this before. Beginnings and Apologies by Alex Ross. So Alex Ross is going to talk. Not going to go through text or anything. Oh, he met Kirby. Lucky him. Good picture to throw in there. So, you know what? I'm curious. What is this? I'm going to assume this is some sort of model that either Alex Ross made at some point or someone made for him. But anyways, obviously a diorama representing this classic cover here. So this is the issue, right? This man, this monster that this whole adventure either takes place right before or right after, something like that. Okay, so they reprint it. Wow, it's kind of interesting to see this at this size. I guess these are scans from like the actual original comic. If I had to guess, that's what I would say. Not scans of the artwork, but of the actual comic. There's a bit of a slight blur to it, but you know, I think the goal is to see it in all its vintagey goodness. And you know, looking at this again, yellow, 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 lots of yellow, right? Here again, yellow. So Alex Ross isn't just pulling this out of his ass, right? He's getting it and really paying attention to the Kirby stuff. Not that Kirby was coloring, but obviously, you know, whatever the colors were being used is what was being published, and that's, you know, what everyone saw. Yellow down here. Kirby, man, his crazy contraptions. Like, come on. How do you come up with that in your head? Amazing. So again, because we're not spending too much time covering the other book, the Alex Ross book, we won't spend too much time on this, but I will throw this out, right? All of the kind of psychedelic moments that we see, definitely inspired a lot by Kirby. And again, here's one of those Kirby collages that I'm assuming Alex Ross took a lot of that inspiration for the round shapes that he did. This one's actually pretty effective overall because it's got very concise shapes and that, you know, have generally good contrast against each other in this image. Some other, maybe, you know, some of these were more successful at Marvel, possibly. Maybe DC had a different printing technique or something, and then, you know, a lot of the ones he did at DC I think came out worse than this. That one's actually not too bad if this is what you know, kind of the original comic looks like. All right, so yeah, let's move it along. That's up to you guys to read. So okay, some kid Alex Ross art, that's always fun. My history with the Fantastic Four, so I'm not going to go through this. Usually they have little blurbs talking about the image that maybe I could read for you guys, but I guess it's just one long text here, so I won't get into it. Yeah, so look at the face of the actor here. Definitely, excuse me, not the actor, but Reed Richards. Definitely the guy from Gilligan's Island, just with a 5 o'clock shadow, right? Which you would probably have on Gilligan's Island. They're pretty clean cut for a bunch of people stuck on an island. So you're getting a lot of basically the Alex Ross Fantastic Four art he did for Marvels back in the day, I guess. This seems to be something even pre-Marvel, or maybe part of his proposal. Maybe that's what they're talking about here. That would make sense. Yeah. Alex Ross hasn't quite become Alex Ross, but he's pretty darn close. He is one of those guys, I gotta say, Alex Ross, like, continually improves. His artwork is just continually being refined and getting better, so at least on a technical level. I mean, there is a reason he's successful. I enjoy all sorts of art, right? Like super crazy, out there, Sam Keith, Bill Sienkiewicz kind of stuff, you know, Kevin O'Neill, but I also, when I see someone who can really draw very precisely and realistically, it's very impressive as well, because it's really hard to do and be consistent. It's that consistency. Love this kind of stuff with these colors here, like that psychedelic vibe always, especially with the Fantastic Four. Just seems, yeah, here's kind of, you know, that original probably proposal that he did kind of recycle the composition stuff in the comic here, but look at those colors. I love that stuff, and that's 100% Kirby inspired. This is maybe slightly more modern looking, but could probably still fit in the 60s. I know some of this proposal I'm not going to read right now because, you know, that's not the point of this exercise. But some of this proposal was for kind of the regular Fantastic Four series and then didn't pan out. And then eventually he was able, through Abrams' book, I think is the publishing. Not 100% sure on that. But whoever publishes this book in Full Circle first, the first edition, he was able to do it through, use that proposal for this story, basically. Adapt it, right? Look at all that. Like, oh, I remember seeing this somewhere. I really like this idea that I guess he didn't ultimately kind of go with, but he was trying to, you know, almost like a dark reflection on the costume being these squiggly kind of Jack Kirby lines, right? For lack of a better term for them. He's doing it here too, right? Like, he's always thinking, always interested. Like, this is the Kirby style, right? Of how he would do musculature and, in lines and stuff. And sinew, as Neil Adams famously said about Jack Kirby. He draws the sinew. He was trying to incorporate it graphically into the costume, which I think is really cool. Could have worked, maybe, if he kept at it. I feel like he's kind of doing it here more literally, right? With those kind of squiggly Kirby lines, trying to streamline that. And then he kind of goes, no, you got to go full tilt. And eventually he settled on something else. But still, again, just such great ideas and ways to interpret and respect the original stuff while changing it and making it more interesting, or developing a certain aspect of it. The guy goes full tilt when he's on a project, right? He just puts tons of thought into it. Again, I see what he's, I'm sure when I start reading this, he's going to talk about, for sure, the color scheme. And I'm seeing it now, right? Now it's juxtaposed next to what he did, all these reds and yellows and stuff. Like, he definitely looked at the color scheme of these comics. Some reference pics, right, that he used for those first few pages. Yeah, you see it here. But you see how he adapts it, changes it to his needs, right? It's not the exact same building. It's a bit smaller. You see a bit more negative space around it, but, that's where the inspiration came from. Okay. This is Alex Ross. All right, guys. So he's circled this kind of painting that's on the wall in their apartment, and he's actually included it here in the story, the same exact painting. And of course, they've got a painting by Kirby. He signed it, Kirby. That's so awesome. Love details like that. That's the kind of stuff I'm living for. Yeah, this whole sequence is great. And it's okay, so it is an actual kind of almost literal reproduction of some of these scenes here. Very good. No one does it better, right? Yeah, I can't think of anyone, who could pull it off, who could pull something like this off. It's like he's talked about it, but I do see it as like a love letter to Jack Kirby and to the Fantastic Four. That's what we got here for sure. Okay, he's trying to reproduce that kind of tropey classic last panel. Yeah, so here's another section where he's kind of, again, trying to use that Kirby squiggle as part of the actual, it would be something that would be like a reflection he talked about and would move across the costumes. Yeah, it's kind of doing it here, right? A little bit. Another kind of variation on it. He's known to use dolls for reference, right? For lighting and stuff. Like, that makes sense with this kind of material he's got on the dolls here. That would definitely help him. Again, puts a lot of thought into it. Very, very insightful. So, you know what I mean? He doesn't literally lift it. The angle's a bit different, right? But he got the reference and just heighten this because they're in the negative zone, and just, that dark reflection thing he's got going there is just so awesome. This guy here. Wow, I'm going to start going a little bit faster, guys, because this video is going to go on forever. But I've got a lot to read about this. Right, so he's incorporated some Janus stuff and get some... So I told you, yeah, he's incorporating some Buscema as well in there, which is fine. So it's fun because he's really showing you for each scene and each part where he got kind of the... he went back through the old comics and showing you where he, for lack of a better term, lifted stuff, right? Or borrowed stuff. Wow, I didn't know that was a direct reference to something. That's crazy. The point of view. That's awesome. Yeah, that's, again, so much depth to what he's doing, right? He kind of took a bit of this here and mixed it up together. That's insane. So good. Again, I'll mention again that Batman stuff he did. What if Jack Kirby did Batman in the 70s? That's another one. Go check that stuff out. It's like he's so perceptive and so agile with the Kirby style, right? And mixing, like, look at these guys here. This is a Hanna-Barbera cartoon right here. So he's mixing like Toth and Kirby. I'll put it that way. Didn't even know this was like an actual... That's crazy. Wow. Work process. If you've ever seen... he always starts with some very small thumbnails, right? That's what we're getting here. Try to go a little faster here. So I'm going to assume he's thrown in the layouts and stuff for the whole comic. So I'm going to go through that very quickly. I mean, the level of detail already just in the pencils is pretty crazy. And this is him doing it with no reference and stuff, right? Then he goes in and gets the reference for the lighting, for the backgrounds and everything. It's just crazy, right? So here again, he's showing you. Took a picture of himself here, right? To create that pose of the thing right there. Uses the dolls, the action figures as well. Would tend to believe he used these a lot. He sculpts the faces himself, right? I'm not reading into this here. I know that. You know, he builds these toys and then uses them as reference. The material he used is perfect, right? For the look he's going for in the comic and what he used. Dude does his own, you know, logo and lettering design as well. It's just crazy. This guy does it all. So this I feel are like the if not life-size pencils, close to, right? That's where he gets very detailed, gets all the reference down. And this is what he'll eventually be inking with the gouache, right? So, okay, so he's got, wow. I'm going to go quickly now, because these pencils, as amazing as they are, oh my god. Jeez, there's a few days of work, eh? And that's just the pencils, because he's going to, you know, ink it with the gouache after. So again, I'm going to go through this section quickly. Get the book yourself if you really want to spend some time there. You know, because as great as all of this is, it's just more of the same. There's the last page. All right, so now we're getting, you know, you can tell he's been looking at the dolls here. They're a little stiff here. A little doll-like. So inking, the inking isn't really inking. The gouache watercolors, yeah, exactly. Black gouache as if it was ink is basically what he did here. Right, and that's how you can get those effects there with the brush. It's a little more painterly. Right, these kind of grays that he's laying down here. He's doing hatching, but a very kind of loose hatching or almost dry brushy kind of hatching. So you've got every version of the book here. All right, so again, this is a section I'll just go through quickly, just not, you know, in any disrespect to the art, which is amazing, but like we've gone through the thumbnails, we've gone through the pencils, but to show you that, fuck, I mean, the guy goes through these 3 major processes here, and it's not even colored yet. You know what I mean? So this is what artists, you know, some, you know, the regulars out there, the civilians don't understand about artists is, you know, it's a 1, 2, 3 step process. You know, when you're doing the sketches and stuff, that's quick and, you know, that's a 1-step process, but the sketch is the beginning, and then the refining of it, as you're seeing here, is a 3-step process. And a guy like Alex Ross, with the level of precision and detail that he puts into it, man, you know, I can't imagine that it doesn't get tedious for him, but I mean, he's been doing this his whole life. He's very productive, so it's got to be something he really loves, clearly. I would have to assume he does. And there you go. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the colors. So he tried to guess a few different looks over here, right? And in his usual workhorse fashion, created some color guides here, which I assume is what he started off with, and then the colorist who assisted him probably did the final kind of step there. Yeah, I love this look here. Here's another kind of example of slight usage of the Kirby squiggle on the costume, which I think always looks cool. That's awesome. It's like Kirby pushed a bit further even with the costume. Very cool. It's like, what if Kirby had drawn my Fantastic Four design, is kind of what he did. New costume in Kirby style. I should read more. Wow. Yeah, no, all this, I mean, just full of great artwork. I definitely have a lot to read in here, if not the actual book, because I've already read it. I'll still go through the art and stuff. But to have all these, wow, different you know, complete versions of the thumbnails, the pencils, and then the inked version is pretty spectacular. You don't get that a lot. So, you know, not so expensive book, but fairly expensive, right? And I would say definitely worth it. So these are some covers, I guess, that Alex Ross did. He's really become more kind of almost like slightly psychedelic and saturated in his colors, and I think it's awesome, right? He's not trying to be as realistic. He's using, you know, the basic composition, anatomy and stuff, and photo reference is realistic, but his color choice is more kind of psychedelic and saturated and pop art and very comic booky, if I can say that. That doesn't insult anyone. And I mean, by comic book, I mean mainstream kind of superhero stuff, right? But it just kind of works. I love it. It's very bold. That saturated kind of look. Great stuff. I mean, he's always, I guess, even when he's doing these covers, he's just pulling from that 60s nostalgia, which makes sense. I just thought this was a clever, you know, again, an extra kind of wrinkle to the Fantastic Four mythos, and more specifically Mr. Fantastic. The fact that he's rubber and stuff, with all these guys biting his and pulling at his face is just, ooh, it's kind of horrific. But at the same time, you're like, well, he is stretchy, so he should survive it. But just nasty looking, and I love it. This is what I mean. Look at that color. Love it. So psychedelic. All this stuff here, very cool. And yet another version of the Fantastic Car. Kind of weird hyper reality going on here. It's almost like a statue as compared to everything. It's almost like the face is a little more detailed than the costume. Interesting. Probably on purpose, kind of designing the blue is pretty bold here. I mean, cool. Love it. And is that how it ends? There you go. Wow. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. That's my review of, as claimed on the cover of the book here, National Bestseller, Expanded Edition, Fantastic Four, Full Circle. Great book. It was fun to unbox it with you guys and give you my first impressions on that. Guys, if you're subscribed and you're still watching and you love the videos, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Appreciate your support very much. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so. It only takes a second. It really helps the channel out. It helps get us out there to more and more like-minded people who are into the same stuff that we are, namely comic books. Hope you enjoyed this video. Everyone out there, have an awesome day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at kingcomics.ca, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.